At the family reunion, they told me and my wife it was a costume party. We arrived in animal suits and were placed next to the trash. Daniel, we forgot our wallet and our cards too. My sister-in-law laughed when the $17,500 bill arrived. Your family, cover it, she snapped. I whispered, never again. Next morning, I blocked their accounts, froze $9,800 savings, canceled the lease. I should have known something was off the moment we pulled into the driveway. The invitation was clear. Family reunion, costume party theme. Bring your best animal suits. My wife, Emily, was giddy about it for weeks. She ordered matching full-body fox costumes, complete with ears, tails, even little gloves that made it impossible to properly use your phone. We laughed the whole drive over, excited to finally enjoy some family bonding after everything they'd put us through. When we stepped out of the car, I immediately froze. No one else was wearing a costume. Not one single person. My father, in his usual stiff navy suit, was chatting with my mother, who wore one of her expensive designer dresses. My sister-in-law, Madison, wore a slim red gown, sipping white wine as if she belonged on a magazine cover. My brother Jacob stood nearby, laughing with some relatives. Everyone turned to look at us. Their smiles were thin, controlled. We looked like complete clowns. Daniel, you made it, my father said, his voice drenched in a sticky sweetness. Oh my, such enthusiasm. The sarcasm behind his words sliced through me like a blade. Emily squeezed my hand tighter. Daniel, it's fine, she whispered. But her cheeks were burning with embarrassment. Madison stepped forward with a fake little giggle. Oh my God, you guys actually wore the animal suits? We were joking. It was just a theme idea. You took it so literally. She placed her hand on her chest dramatically, as though we were the ones who had committed some terrible faux pas. And then came the seating arrangement. We were escorted to a small, round table placed at the very edge of the outdoor patio, right next to the giant silver trash bins. The smell of rotting shrimp cocktails and spoiled wine drifted over us as servers kept passing, careful not to make eye contact. They put us by the trash, Emily whispered, her voice cracking. Daniel, they're humiliating us. I clenched my jaw. I wasn't going to make a scene. Not yet. Then came dinner. Course after course was served to the rest of the family on elegant porcelain, lobster tails, wagyu steaks, caviar appetizers. Emily and I? We were served cold garden salads and lukewarm water. My stomach twisted, but I kept my expression calm. I had endured far worse from my family. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. As the final bill came, a server approached with a small black leather folder and handed it directly to me. I opened it. My breath caught in my throat. $17,500. Before I could even react, Madison burst out laughing. Oh, Daniel, funny story. We forgot our wallets. And the cards too, she said with exaggerated innocence. But your family, you can cover it, right? Her voice snapped cold as she emphasized the last word. Jacob didn't say a word. Neither did my parents. They all stared, expecting, demanding. Emily looked at me with wide, panicked eyes. Daniel, I didn't bring anything either. That was the moment I broke. I leaned slightly toward Madison, lowered my voice so only she could hear. Never again, I whispered. I smiled politely, placed my napkin on the table, and excused myself to the restroom. But I wasn't going to the restroom. No. That was the exact moment my plan clicked into action. You need to understand, this wasn't the first time. Not even close. For years, I played the role they assigned me. The responsible son. The stable one. The walking ATM. When I was 23, my brother Jacob failed out of college after blowing my parents' savings on gambling and luxury weekends with his then-girlfriend. Who bailed him out? Me. I pulled $15,000 from my own savings, the money Emily and I were going to use for our first house. My parents called me a hero for 2 weeks. Then they went right back to ignoring me. A few years later, my father's business hit rough waters. The real estate investments that made him rich in the 2000s were bleeding cash. One temporary loan of $42,000 later, all from my private investments, and they still managed to remodel their vacation home. My mother cried when she asked me for the money. Said she was ashamed to even ask. But they asked anyway. Every holiday was another performance. I'd watch Jacob receive $1,000 watches, European vacations, even a new sports car for his 30th birthday, all while I kept my mouth shut, bringing my own bottle of cheap wine because it's not appropriate to drink too much of the family's collection. Emily warned me many times. Daniel, they're using you, she whispered one night as we sat on our worn-out couch, the springs creaking beneath us. They don't love you. They love what you do for them. But I kept brushing it off. Their family, I said like a fool. Until it got worse. The real breaking point came last year. Madison, Jacob's wife, decided she wanted to open her own boutique. Designer handbags and jewelry. She called it her life passion. My parents were ecstatic. Of course, they needed startup capital. And guess who they called first? Daniel. My father began during one of our monthly dinners. It's an investment opportunity for the family. You help her launch now, we all benefit down the road. I can't, I said, for the first time ever. Emily and I are trying to buy a house. We've been saving for years. His face hardened. You've always been the responsible one. I raised you to understand sacrifice. Do you think Jacob could manage this? You know he couldn't. Madison, seated across the table, gave me that sickening grin of hers. It's not like we're asking for a handout, she added. It's just $75,000. For family. I still said no. The next day, they cut off contact for months. Birthday? Ignored. Holidays? Uninvited. My mother texted Emily to say they needed space from my negativity. That's who they were. And yet, I still came to that reunion. Still wore the stupid fox suit. Still tried to be part of the family. Until last night, when Madison laughed in my face. When Jacob stayed silent like the coward he's always been. When my parents, the people who raised me, nodded like it was all perfectly reasonable to dump a $17,500 bill on me and my wife, and then humiliate us in front of the entire extended family. That night, while Emily slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind racing, my rage simmering into something cold and calculated. They thought I would keep playing my role. They thought I was trapped. They forgot something very important. All the family finances ran through me. By the time the sun came up, my plan was already moving. They thought I was weak. They thought I wouldn't dare. But they made one critical mistake. For years, I had been the one quietly managing everything behind the scenes. You see, my father, in all his arrogance, never fully trusted Jacob with money. And certainly not Madison. Every time they needed a bailout, every time they cried family emergency, they handed me legal access. My name was on the joint business accounts as a trustee. I was the co-signer on Jacob's last credit line after his gambling meltdown. Even the boutique's LLC was technically registered under my name to get better interest rates. They were lazy, greedy, and worst of all, complacent. I sat at my home office desk that morning, sipping black coffee, while Emily watched me nervously. Daniel, she whispered, are you sure you want to do this? I looked at her. I should have done it years ago. Step 1. Block. I logged into the banking portal where I had full administrator access. The boutique's account? Frozen with a single click. Jacob's emergency savings? Locked. The joint family investment fund my father begged me to co-sign 3 years ago? Blocked withdrawals pending internal audit. Next, I contacted the family financial advisor. Effective immediately, I said calmly, I am revoking all financial authorizations on my name. Any transaction attempted after 9 a.m. will trigger fraud protocols. He hesitated. Daniel, is everything okay? It's long overdue. Step 2. Cut the artery. At precisely 9:15 a.m., I submitted paperwork through my attorney freezing the boutique's operating license due to compliance irregularities. The authorities would be knocking within the week. Madison's precious boutique, her entire identity, was now paralyzed. Jacob's outstanding $42,000 credit balance? Sold to a collections agency. They would start calling within days. Their safety net was gone. Just like that. Step 3. The final step in cutting ties. I logged into the leasing platform and terminated the luxury condo lease that I had personally guaranteed for Jacob and Madison last year when they couldn't qualify a loan. They had 30 days to vacate. At 10:03 a.m., my phone exploded. It was Madison first. Her voice was shrill, furious. Daniel, what did you do? My boutique account is frozen. That's correct, I replied, my tone steady. Pending financial investigation. You can't do this. I already did. Then Jacob called. I didn't answer. Then my father. His voice was tight with rage. Daniel, what in God's name are you doing? What you never thought I would do, Dad, I said, my voice ice cold. I'm done being your personal piggy bank. You ungrateful little, he hissed. Everything we've done for you. You mean everything I've done for you? I interrupted. 17 years, Dad. 17 years of covering Jacob's failures, Madison's fantasies, and your delusions. Not one thank you. Only more demands. You think you're better than us now? He snapped. No. I've always been better. I just finally realized it. He tried switching tactics, the usual emotional manipulation. This is family, Daniel. Family sticks together. I laughed bitterly. Family doesn't humiliate each other in front of 50 people and dump a $17,000 bill on them. You're destroying this family, he snarled. No, you destroyed it years ago. I'm just walking away from what's already broken. Step 4. Full detachment. By noon, my attorney filed full revocation letters on every joint asset was shared. I was legally clean. No more co-signing. No more shared responsibilities. And no more debt exposure if their financial ship finally sank, which it absolutely would. By 3 p.m. that same day, they all showed up at my house. I saw them through the window, my father, Jacob, Madison, even my mother, standing awkwardly behind them. Pleading. Furious. Desperate. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. Daniel, my father began, forcing a smile. Let's not make rash decisions. We can fix this. I stood tall, my voice calm but lethal. This was not rash. This was justice. Jacob stepped forward, his voice cracking. Man, come on. We're brothers. No, I corrected him. You've always taken, never once given back. Madison's eyes blazed. You'll regret this. You need us more than we need you. I smiled for the first time all day. That's where you're wrong, Madison. I needed you to show your true colors. And now that you have, I'm finally free. I closed the door on their stunned, outraged faces. That evening, as Emily and I sat on our quiet porch, watching the sunset, she reached for my hand. You finally did it, she whispered. I exhaled deeply, the weight of years lifting off my chest. I should have done it a long time ago. The texts came in for days. The calls. The threats. The begging. I blocked them all. The silence after the storm was strange. For the first time in my adult life, my phone wasn't vibrating every few hours with another family demand, guilt trip, or financial crisis. But the chaos on their side? That was only beginning. 1 week later, the collapse. The boutique was the first to fall. Without my financial backing, Madison's little empire crumbled like wet cardboard. Her suppliers cut ties when her credit froze. The building owner posted for lease signs less than 2 weeks later. Emily and I drove by one morning. She saw Madison standing outside, arguing with a landlord, her face twisted with fury. There was a handwritten "store closed due to legal dispute" taped to the locked glass doors. Emily squeezed my hand. You okay? I smiled. I've never been better. 2 weeks later, the eviction. Jacob called me 4 times that day. All ignored. Then came the text. Bro, they're kicking us out. The landlord won't give us more time. You need to help. No, I didn't. The luxury condo he once bragged about? Gone. The fancy car payments? Defaulted. Creditors began calling Madison's parents next, and she was humiliated beyond measure when even her own mother told her, you should have listened to Daniel. They moved back into my parents' house, dragging their 2 spoiled kids into the circus. My parents' perfect little family image was shattered like a champagne glass hitting concrete. 3 weeks later, my father's empire finally shook. Without access to the frozen joint funds, my father's business loans began collapsing. For years, he'd been quietly moving debt between entities, hiding shortfalls. I was the one who made it possible until I wasn't. One afternoon, his banker called me by mistake, not realizing I had pulled my authorizations. Mr. Grayson, are you prepared to provide personal guarantees for your father's upcoming balloon payment? No, I said simply. Not anymore. Silence on the other end. Without me, my father was exposed, no fallback, no buffer, no bailout. Within 60 days, 2 of his commercial properties went into pre-foreclosure. His country club friends stopped returning his calls. The private poker nights where he used to brag about how smart his investments were dried up instantly. The relatives came next. Suddenly cousins, aunts, and uncles I hadn't spoken to in years started reaching out. Daniel, maybe you're overreacting? You know how your father gets under pressure. Be the bigger man. I simply replied with one message to all of them. For 17 years, I was the bigger man. Now I'm free. And I blocked every one of them. My mother broke first. Late one evening, she showed up at our house. Emily saw her car pull up but said nothing. We both watched through the window as my mother stood at the front door, hesitating. Eventually, I opened it. Her voice was fragile. Daniel, please. Your father isn't well. He's not sleeping. He's sick from all this. I held the door frame steady. And where was his concern when he humiliated us? When he handed me the bill? When you all laughed at us while we sat next to the trash? Tears welled in her eyes. I was trying to keep the family together. I shook my head slowly. No, Mom. You were trying to keep the illusion alive, and you sacrificed me for it. Her lip quivered. You don't mean to let this go on forever, do you? I exhaled. I do. You made your choices. Now you live with them. I closed the door gently as she cried softly on the porch. And then came the final blow, Jacob's betrayal of my father. Out of pure desperation, Jacob turned on him. Jacob cut a deal with one of my father's creditors, offering insider information on the collapsing businesses to negotiate reduced liability for himself and Madison. My father's golden boy, the son he always protected, sold him out for personal survival. The last time I heard from my father was through a lawyer. He wanted me to testify on his behalf in the civil litigation that was coming. My lawyer replied for me. Mr. Grayson declines. No further contact. What happened to us? Emily and I? We finally bought the house we dreamed of. No loans tied to my family. No signatures shared. Every dollar we spent was ours. I opened my own consulting firm, freed from the black hole of family obligation. We traveled. We breathed again. For the first time in years, Emily looked at me one morning and said, "You seem lighter." I simply replied, "Because I am." But the most unexpected moment came 6 months later. One evening, while walking through the park with Emily, a woman stopped us. It was Cheryl, Madison's former business partner, who had cut ties with her when the boutique crashed. She smiled shyly. "Daniel, I just wanted to say, you did the right thing. None of them deserved what you gave them for so long. I'm glad you finally saved yourself." Before I could even respond, she added softly, "We were all waiting to see if you'd ever break free." That was the moment I knew. I didn't lose a family. I escaped to prison. It's strange how peace doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like silence. Clean, pure silence. The kind I never knew when I was trapped under the weight of their endless demands. 1 year later, my phone no longer rings with unknown numbers tied to my family. No more late-night texts from my father hinting at urgent financial matters. No more emails from Madison with thinly veiled threats disguised as apologies. No more Jacob pretending to be my brother only when he needed something. Gone. All of them. Erased like a virus finally purged from my system. Emily and I sit on the back deck of our new home, ours and only ours. The sun melts into the horizon as soft music plays in the background. The only noise comes from the trees rustling in the wind. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not waiting for the next disaster. Because I don't belong to them anymore. Reflection hits me in waves. How many years did I waste trying to buy love? How many times did I let them bleed me dry while calling it family duty? How many holidays did I sit at that table, watching them praise Jacob for achievements he never earned, while my sacrifices were invisible? The worst part? I thought that was normal. That this was what family was supposed to be, one person bleeding, while the rest feast. But no more. The final nail came just weeks ago. I received a certified letter from my father's lawyer. One last desperate attempt. We propose a settlement arrangement for the outstanding family debts. Your cooperation could greatly assist your father's financial rehabilitation. This would allow for future reconciliation between all parties. I read it once. Then I laughed. Out loud. Emily looked at me curiously. Another letter? I tossed it into the fireplace. The flames ate the paper as fast as they ate my last remaining guilt. We don't negotiate with people who saw me only as a resource, I whispered. The truth is simple now. I didn't destroy my family. I didn't abandon anyone. They destroyed themselves long ago. I simply stepped out of the wreckage. They taught me one brutal lesson that I'll carry for the rest of my life. Love is not currency. Loyalty is not slavery. And family is not permission to be exploited. For 17 years, I played the obedient son, the human safety net, the walking wallet. And the moment I stopped paying, their entire empire collapsed like a house of cards. Not because I was cruel, but because their world was built on my sacrifices, not on their strength. Now, I am free. Free to build a life where my worth isn't measured in dollars. Free to wake up without dread curling in my stomach. Free to finally live for myself, not as their bank, not as their scapegoat, but as Daniel, the man who finally said, "Never again."